So good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the speakers and participants in today's session organized by TechGeek on fusing tech expertise with human understanding, the 2024 blueprint. So myself, Palvi, and I'm working as an event manager and alliance in TechGeek. So as we all know that TechGeek is a division of Times Internet, and it is India's largest digital product company. So we help our business partners realize their true talent and business potential using our specialized skill assessments, community engagements, and recruitment solutions. So we are India's largest and the fastest growing developer community of 5.1 million software professionals. So, in the reference to our today's topic on fusing tech expertise with human understanding, and we have with us the panel of experts, Mr. Sunil David, our moderator for today's session, Mr. Shankar Venugopal, Ms. Vibha Sareen Prabhakar, Ms. Selina David, and Mr. Rajiv Chiredurai. So, with this, I would like to hand it over to our moderator for today's session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Palvi, for that introduction, and good afternoon to all the speakers and all those who have joined us virtually. At the outset, I would like to thank Palvi and the Times Internet Group, one of India's well-known digital media groups, for giving me the opportunity to moderate this panel discussion that will deliberate on the topic fusing tech expertise with human understanding, the 2024 blueprint. Very, very important topic given the times that we live in. Before we get into the discussion, I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of set the context for today's discussion. We are living in an era where technology is not just a tool, but a partner in our daily lives. So we are seeing this whole integration of human insights with technological advancements, and that has become more crucial than ever. Today, we stand at the intersection of human creativity and machine intelligence, where the synergy between these two realms is not just beneficial, but essential for the future we are heading towards. Now, as we navigate deeper into the digitally driven era, I dare say AI era, the intertwining of human skills with digital technology is not just inevitable, but essential. And this interface is redefining the landscape of how we work, how we interact, and how we evolve. We are living in times where technology is no longer just a part of our environment, but a very extension of our human capacities. Some of the key themes that we would like to cover during the discussion. One is the role of emotional intelligence in technology. We want to explore how emotional intelligence can integrate into technology to enhance user experience, improve customer service, and make technology more accessible and user-friendly. And from this perspective, we're going to have Shankar Venugopal, who would talk from an auto industry standpoint, how one can actually use principles of design thinking to really put yourself in the shoes of the customer so as to build products and services that are more tailor-made to their needs. We're also going to talk about the importance of technology in education and workforce skilling and development, right? Today, the onus is on the individuals to make sure that they are constantly upskilling and reskilling. And we are talking about personalized learning experiences today, this whole aspect about skill development. And in this context, I just wanted to give an example of how a well-known BPM company, Genpact, and Vibha, you would know them because you worked for them before, a well-known leader in the BPM space, they built actually a platform called Genome. It's an AI-assisted scalable learning platform to build skills for the future. Very briefly, it covers over 600 granular skills in over 80 domains and learning across 4 major areas: digital skills, professional skills, industry skills, and service line skills. And this whole platform creates a personalized learning plan to guide employees on critical skills to focus on based on their roles and so on. And they've almost completed like 40 million learning hours on the Genome platform. And I'm sure individual companies have built their own learning platforms to really enhance skilling for their employees. Again, in this context, I just wanted to give you an example of what NASSCOM is a well-known IT industry body, and they actually build a very good future skills platform working in conjunction with Ministry of Electronics and IT and the Boston Consultancy Group. It's a big initiative to skill women leaders in digital technologies. It's called Women Wizards Rule Tech. I have been associated with this initiative for the last 4 years, and the whole objective is to ensure that women leaders are exposed to various digital technologies like IoT, AI, blockchain, cybersecurity. The objective is to build future digital leaders for tomorrow. And this program has been very, very successful. I just want to quote that last year's cohort who participated in this one-year program, 60% of them who did that program actually got career progression. The other important dimension that we definitely want to touch upon is this whole human and tech collaboration. Okay, and here I just wanted to make a couple of points. I think from an organization perspective, one, employees should really look at technology as a friend and not as a foe, right? I just want to give the example of how in manufacturing, since in my current role as a consultant with Frost & Sullivan, which does a lot of assessments for manufacturing companies, we started to see how Cobos are at play, robots working with the human to really improve their productivity. And I also wanted to highlight how Microsoft, they're coming up with products and services that are going to help and augment the productivity of humans. And an example of that is Microsoft Copilot. The other dimension is the human skills in the digital world. I just wanted to emphasize on this because things like critical thinking, creativity, empathy, adaptability, resilience, that will become very, very important in a tech-driven world. And these skills will need to complement all the technical expertise. Time permitting, we might touch a little bit about leadership and its impact. We would also want to talk about workplace transformation, again, time permitting, how workplaces have evolved, hybrid workplaces are here to stay. And before I end my context setting, I would want to also very briefly talk about how we are seeing this whole impact of generative AI. 2022 November is when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and it kind of took the world by storm, right? 100 million users in about 30 odd days, and we're seeing how large enterprises are experimenting with Gen AI today, right? And we probably hear Selena probably talk about how within Hitachi they are trying to leverage Gen AI, especially from a skilling standpoint. But what is very evident is that Gen AI was definitely likely to transform your existing jobs. We'll probably see the Gen AI augment human skills to make them a lot more efficient. We're also going to talk about this whole aspect about job evolution. So we keep hearing the word job displacement, and there is this cliche which says that AI is not going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will take your job, right? So we'll probably hear from Rajiv in terms of probably not the right term to use job displacement, but perhaps jobs evolution, right? So we're seeing this whole evolution of jobs. The jobs that we're going to see 4 or 5 years from now is going to be different from what we're currently seeing, right? And the other thing I just want to highlight before we get into the discussion is Gen AI has got the potential to really increase productivity across sectors, and that can lead to significant economic growth and create new opportunities and markets. So with that context in mind, let me move to the panel and let me get Rajiv from Ergos Mind into the discussion first. So Rajiv, firstly, thank you so much for taking time to join this panel. We are seeing this whole paradigm, Rajiv, the human AI paradigm that is playing out, where we are trying to merge human insights with AI capabilities. And that calls for a very collaborative approach where humans need to work very closely with technology. And hence the need for upskilling, reskilling for human becomes all the more important, given the disruptions that we are seeing in the marketplace, right? So I wanted to get your views on this whole collaborative approach and also about the skilling dimension, Rajiv, since you deal a lot with people.
Thank you, Sunil, and thank you for having me here. I think it's a fascinating question that you've asked. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is it's not AI versus humans or humans versus AI. I think instead of versus, it's about with. I think it's working together with. And you look at what does AI do really, right? AI excels in tasks in terms of involving data analysis, pattern recognition, and repetitive process. And examples of these aspects of AI include data sorting and predictive analysis and automated customer support. Now that's on one side, right? That's the side that AI brings in those capabilities. On the other hand, You got human-led tasks, and you did mention some of them, which involve emotional intelligence, which involve creativity, complex decision making, and I'll also add leadership to that kitty. And examples of this, right, really is about interpersonal communications, creative problem solving, and strategic planning. That's the human side of it. And all of this requires what I would call human intuition and a proper contextual understanding for it to function. Now, when this marriage of AI and the human capabilities come together, I think it really enhances the effectiveness and efficiency of the organization, the team, and the individual. I want to give you an example of a business that I consult with, right? I consult in the financial services business, and I'm not taking the name of the organization, but it's a global insurance provider, okay? And we are doing some consulting for the EMEA and the LATAM markets. Now, many of the end users, right, who are the distributors or the agents, as you would call them, are not very tech savvy, if you may. But then how are you using AI there to drive and enhance the productivity? I think the marriage between human capability and AI capability here is that AI analyzes their sales activity ratio and is able to actually pinpoint where they are lagging, and therefore customize a particular personalized learning plan for that particular agent. So it becomes very granular. It is not a generic learning plan, but it's what Rajiv needs, right? And therefore the acceptability and adoption of that learning plan is very high, and immediately the impact on productivity is actually measured. Now this can be done at scale just because of the AI capability, and the learning aspect, in terms of driving the learning aspect, the last mile comes through a human approach. So for me, that's a great integration of this. Now, therefore, the skilling from an agent perspective is just to act on the notifications he or she would receive, and therefore go and kind of learn what he or she needs to learn in practice. So I see this happening. This is just one case in point, but there are several examples where we are seeing this seamless integration of AI and human capability, resulting in higher productivity, higher revenue, reduced wastage, and so on and so forth. So I think it's, I'll end this by saying, I don't think it's an either or. I think it's an and. It is AI and the human capabilities working together, and you need that marriage to actually work.
Right, Rajiv. Thank you so much. So I think you talked about the importance of the human aspect. We talked about creativity and the human skills that are important, and very nicely, put. It's the marriage between human and AI, and it cannot be like an or. It is human and AI working in conjunction. And it actually reminds me of what I read very recently. It talked about how you can blend human capabilities with AI capacities, because you really need significant compute and storage to process all the data, and that AI does that very well. And when you complement that with human capabilities, then the possibilities are limitless, right? So thank you so much, Rajiv. Let me get Shankar into the discussion. And Shankar, we've known each other for what, 5-6 years now. Veteran in the automotive industry, and it is a very competitive industry, Shankar. Last 2 years, we've seen significant growth in the auto industry, and this growth is likely to continue for the next year or two. Now, given the competitive nature of the industry, the onus is on the auto OEMs now to really come up with cars, designs that are very tailor-made to the needs of a consumer, which means that you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the customer to see it from their lens, right? So your views in terms of how you can really leverage, one is technology like data mining, analytics, to understand the real deepest needs of the customer, and to also bring in the human dimension to really build products and services that customers truly want and need, Shankar. Your views.
Sure, Sunil. Still, I'm sitting here at the Mahindra Research Valley, which is our new product innovation hub for both automotive and the farm business. So I will pull out a couple of examples from both these domains to tell you how crucial it is for us to look at this in a very systematic and structured way. I'm sure you've been following the developments in the automotive industry, and you have seen all the disruptions shifting from engine-based vehicles to electric vehicles, even business models from individually owned vehicles to shared mobility providers. So you name it, we have seen all those disruptions in the last few years. But and so many things have changed all around us. One thing that hasn't changed, and in fact has become more important, is the need for understanding our customers better than anybody else. In fact, that will give us an advantage when many global players come to India and start making things here. We may still have an advantage over others if we know our customers better than anybody else. So if you look at electric vehicles, if I ask you all, are you ready to shift to an electric vehicle? Some of you may say yes, many of you may say no, because the most common thing is what we call as a range anxiety, that you may not be able to reach your destination, the car may run out of charge somewhere halfway through. But honestly, these are more psychological than real, because although we ask for range like 300 kilometers, 400 kilometers, on a typical day we drive about 50 kilometers, not more than that. So it's more psychological than anything else. So how do we understand the real needs of the customers and fine-tune technology to address those needs? Because I can put a big battery pack and charge them heavily for that, but that doesn't make sense. They are not really going to use it. So how do I study the data coming from the vehicle, understand the driving patterns and the real needs of the customers before I put technology into the product? That is one area that we have been looking at, because we have our vehicles all over. So we get a lot of data all the time flowing in from these vehicles. So we use we use AI to see through all the data, extract some insights, and use those insights to focus our innovation on those features that our customers would really care for and really see value and they're ready to pay for. This is on the automotive side. On the farm side, it's even more critical, because none of our engineers have been to a village or worked on a farm. It's all very theoretical, conceptual knowledge for them. So in the very first month, once they join the Mahindra Research Valley, we take them to farms across India, make them stay with the farmers, understand their constraints, pain points, their aspirations, and then come back with a set of insights and then get into product design and development. So where we see a very good combination is bringing design thinking, the empathy aspect of it, along with AI-enabled data insighting, and then faster prototyping and testing. And this combination has really helped a lot for us. But one area we always thought, see, Rajiv talked about people-driven processes versus AI-driven processes. So it's very easy for us to think of repetitive tasks being automated and handled more by AI, and then the more the intellectual things coming to us and keeping us busy with that part. But one area we are always hoping was the product design, the design aspects. How much of AI can we really leverage there? And then we started working with AI-enabled design, early stage concept development and design. And of course, my experience is limited to automotive. But last month in the Harvard Business Review, there is an article which said how AI can augment human creativity. Imagine, that's a holy grail. That can we really become more creative by using AI? But these guys have actually given plenty of examples of how one can do that. So that is very exciting for me. I think we are just scratching the surface. There is so much of very exciting things that's going to happen in terms of product design and innovation when we start leveraging AI in our space.
Right. So Shankar, now with the use of AI, especially when you look at product design and the whole product lifecycle management, right? Will it reduce the time it would take now for OEMs to really produce cars, design and produce cars?
Absolutely, absolutely. What was 5 years product development has shrunk to 3 years, and now it is typically 1.5 years. And we have to do it. We have to basically churn out as many new products as possible and give customers many options. So especially with the new technology like electric vehicles, which is highly modular in design, it is possible for us to do this. And the beneficiaries will be the customers because they will have so many options to choose from, and they can even get involved in the design and custom design a vehicle for their use. All that is possible with the shift in technology.
Right, and Shankar, what we're also clearly seeing is the whole market dynamics change. Right, last year 4 million vehicles sold, 1 and 2 vehicles was an SUV. Almost 50% of vehicles sold were SUVs, which means that the new generation of consumers are willing to pay that premium to buy SUVs, product cars which have a lot more features, safety, connected features, and so on and so forth. So that is also changing, right, Shankar?
Absolutely. Remember, with the SUV kind of vehicles, it's more about the drive experience rather than just going from point A to point B. So those customers' needs are very, very different. So that's where I remember we spoke about going beyond the rational needs of the customer, understanding their emotional needs to see what is it in the vehicle that will really keep them happy. What is it that they would look for, and how do we drive innovation in those directions so that we can connect with the customers at one level deeper. Because rational is easy. They will tell you in terms of fuel efficiency or safety or range. But emotional is very subtle. Unless you spend a lot of time with them, it's very difficult to figure out what are those unmet emotional needs. That's where tech can help, actually. Data mining and analysis and insighting can greatly accelerate that part of the process. That's a very fuzzy part.
Right. Thank you, Shankar. Let me move to Vibha. So, Vibha, thank you so much for joining us. Now, in your role as the Chief Experience Officer of Shriram Automall, your role requires executing a forward-thinking CX strategy and also champion a culture of excellence as your organization attempts to grow revenues and profitability. And needless to say, Vibha, yours is also a very, very competitive industry, and customer experience is obviously going to be very, very important, and that would differentiate one from the other. So can you share with us some of the CX initiatives that are at play within your organization, and also bring in the human dimension, Vibha, as well?
Thank you, Sunil. It's a pleasure and an honor to share this platform with you and all the eminent experts from the industry. It's a very pertinent question. I think any organization exists or thrives because of its customers. There's no business if there are no customers, right? So, and culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's the famous quote by the management guru, Peter Drucker, that I totally live by. And, that's where the customer experience kicks in, that what is the goal of an organization, how they want to ensure the engagement and retention of its customers. Now, technology definitely plays a major role in a positive way in terms of the various tools and AI that can really give a lot of insights in terms of customer behavior. What is it that they want? So Shankar touched upon, knowing your customer. That is the key to begin. And I would like to briefly explain the context in terms of the differentiation between a great customer experience and customer service. Often organizations, do not differentiate between the two, and that's where most of the time their strategies fail. I totally believe that customer service kicks in only when the customer experience strategy fails. Because customer service is more like a reaction and an after action of how the customer has experienced in the various touch points in the customer journey with any organization for any products or service. And that is an after product. So how well defined the customer experience strategy is in terms of the entire life cycle, starting from acquisition. So acquiring a customer is where technology is playing a vital role in terms of analyzing the data, demographics, location of the customers, what has been their history, and what is it that they want. Then moving on to onboarding, the entire experience of onboarding a customer will be very different for what you do in a metro city, for example, in our industry, to a 2-tier or a 3-tier city, right? Personalization, bespoke service definitely differentiates and gives you an edge over the competition. And then after onboarding the customer, how one is engaging. So in each of these steps, the entire strategy of how you make that customer experience unique and bespoke and personalize it as much as you can plays a vital role in then retaining that customer for long. Price is a great differentiator in our industry. And that is where we have used a tool called the Price X. And this is a technological marvel that was created at the challenging times of COVID, where, the physical sale and purchase of the vehicles took a back seat. And that's where the online business started thriving. So now we have about 70% of our business, which is physical, which has very different needs, a very touch and feel model where the customers are walking in and out and, looking at the vehicles, inspecting it. And that's where we are using a lot of tools to give that data in a very transparent manner to them, because that's how you'll be able to engage and retain them for future. And, after engaging, of course, we need to invest in customer service, because we are not living in a utopian world where everything will be perfect. There will always be concerns. There will always be that human touch that Rajiv talked about, where the customer wants to talk to someone, just maybe they have a query or they just have a concern. So investing in customer service is a must, but how the organization creates that entire experience should ultimately reduce the need for customer service. And that is the proof of the pudding, that your customer experience strategy is working well when there is less and less need of kicking in the customer service. So just to summarize how we are managing it in my organization is the entire customer journey mapping that we have done, and we have identified the various touch points and ensured that we provide a unique experience in all those steps. And there is someone who takes care of each customer. We have, say, membership programs for retention. We offer them online as well as physical options based on their demands and needs and comfort. We have various kinds of stakeholders. We have individuals walking in. We have banks and NBFCs as our stakeholders, and dealers, car dealers, and OEMs whom we deal with. So for each bucket, we have various standardized processes that we follow. And last 2 points, the feedback is very important, right? So that is the last step of ensuring that whatever processes you have laid down, are they working well or not? And most of the organizations, after the feedback, what they do is what is the key to continue that retention and engagement. So a follow-up after the feedback is a very, very important step. So we do a survey on a 6-monthly basis, which is around the Net Promoter Score. How many existing customers are actually our promoters, and they'll recommend our organization in their network, is a key question that we ask every 6 months to all our existing stakeholders. And then we take actions on the feedback, whether positive or any opportunity areas that we find around that feedback. So we do a lot of buyer-seller meets. I think, to summarize, it is about knowing the customer, engaging well with them, and seeking continuous feedback, and using technology to enhance these processes and making it easier. So data is as good as the decisions it helps us to take. So that's how we use the technology, but human touch is very essential in our industry.
Right. Thank you, Vibha, for those insights. When you talk about customer experience, the one name which comes to my mind is Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, because he's customer obsessed, and not a surprise that when they look at Amazon retail or Amazon web services, they are market leaders, because the whole obsession about customer experience, making it very seamless for a user to interact with the brand, whether it's an app or a website. I think is a very good example. Vibha, just one question that you talk about the PriceX tool. If I'm not mistaken, that is in conjunction with an academic institution, right? That was built, right, Vibha?
That's right. Right. So we tied up with IIT Delhi to enhance that tool. We have the data of the sale and purchase of any type of vehicle, depending on the make and the model and the health of the engine, depending on its lifetime of the past 13 years since the inception of the organization. So that entire data is being mined to create this tool. And now on a click of a button, the result has been that you put the information about the vehicle and it throws you the results in terms of what should be the approximate price of a used vehicle, which is a very important tool that we plan to monetize and, give it to the OEMs or the banks even to use, not just within our organization. Because that is the key point to decide for a decision to be taken by the customer.
Right. Thanks, Vibha. I think it's a very good example of how the industry closely collaborates with academia. A great example of that. Let me shift gears from customer experience to learning and development and this whole dimension on skilling. So, Selina, thank you so much for taking time to join us. In your current role as an L&D leader in Hitachi Vantara, you're focused on enterprise-wide talent transformation that can yield business outcomes and also the change catalyst with a growth mindset. And you bring to the fore a holistic learning strategy and a strong learning culture. So in this context, if you can share some of the initiatives that are underway within your organization in terms of, and you also talked about the use of Gen AI when we spoke, how that is also being leveraged now from a skilling standpoint, learning and development perspective. So your views, Selina. You're on mute, Selina.
Sure, Sunil. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this forum. And yes, so from a skilling standpoint, we in the organization, we want to be very clear that technology is just a means to an end. The end being creating human experience for our clients, because that's the whole purpose of technology. And so what we do is our techies in the company, when whether they are product designers, whether they are developers, the testing community, whether it is the project management community, the project managers, or whether they are our sales folks, or whether they are even our pre-sales folks, whoever it is, we want them to put technology in scope. And as part of our talent development framework, what we do is we look at a day in the life of a consultant, whether it's a techie or a designer or a product engineer or an architect. What is a day in the life? And if the whole day, the 8 hours, is not just writing code, yes, or testing or whatsoever. There are a bunch of stakeholders they interact with. There's a whole human element around it. And so what we do when we build curriculum is it's an integrated curriculum. There is this tech piece there. There is this project management piece there that the techie would need to go through. There is a professional development piece there. There is a domain, an industry piece there. And then there is this whole quality and, consciousness piece there. And then we also try to put in design thinking through the whole thing. So the net, the message we want to let our techie, whether he or she is a new college graduate or somebody who's joined the company or is in the company with years of experiences, don't look at technology as a means to an end. It is solving problems for our clients. And we don't want this curriculum that I was referring to, we don't want them to view them as disparate curriculum. Okay, I finished the tech thing, now I go and attend a bunch of soft skills, now I go attend a bunch of industry stuff and then quality thing. We want to kind of mesh it together. For example, if it is our new college graduate, we when they attend a tech course, we kind of ask them who are the stakeholders you're working with. What kind of questions would you ask the client as you're doing requirement gathering? Yeah, listen for the input. So it's our curriculum is woven in such a way that a techie understands that he or she would need to be interacting with a lot of stakeholders. There is a whole human element involved in the role he or she plays, and therefore they just gaining tech expertise or digital expertise is not going to be their key success factor. And some initiatives, as what I told you, one such thing like the integrated curriculum. The other thing is right now we're doing a project management certification program where we have all our project managers who need to be certified on Hitachi Vantara specific project management tools and systems. Even there we have this whole human element. Project management is not just certain tools and frameworks and systems that you use to manage, whether it's scope, estimation, and stuff like that. But there is this whole human element there, multiple stakeholders. So we have a huge piece around stakeholder management, negotiations, understanding their own personality style, managing conflict, developing a quality mindset. So a whole lot of stuff around human element is interwoven into any curriculum that we build in for our employees within the company. And then finally, the training effectiveness is again around the whole piece holistically and not just about how well versed he or she is on the technology that he or she was trained on.
Right, Selena, thanks for sharing that. So again, you re-emphasize the importance of the human aspect, the importance of human skills. One question for you, the platform that you build from a learning and development standpoint, is that built in-house or do you take the help of partners to build something? Selena?
Yeah, so our LMS platform is Workday. So it is one of the well-known LMS platforms that is used in the industry. So it's not an in-house built one. It is an LMS product that is sold in the market. And this is the one which is used pan Hitachi across 800 odd companies, pretty much, and lakhs of people. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. So before I move to the second round, I just want all the speakers to kindly note the chat window because there are some questions which are being posted. And if it is directed to any one of you, you can actually respond on the chat window itself. So let me move to the round two now. And let me get Rajiv back into the discussion. So Rajiv, it's a two-part question. One is, I actually wanted to ask Anand about the leadership aspect. He's not today on the panel, but I just wanted to get your views on this whole aspect on adaptive leadership. That's one. And also this whole job evolution, right? So one should not be looking at it as job displacement, but evolution of jobs. And that calls for a completely different mindset for the employees, right? So your views on both the adaptive leadership, Rajiv, and also this whole aspect about jobs evolution.
Cool. I'll take the second one first and take the first one second. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's based out of Malaysia. He's does some very interesting things. He keeps reinventing and doing stuff which is very interesting. So I asked him, "What are you working on?" He said, "I'm working on a people group of 100,000 in Malaysia and 1.5 million in the US." This really got my curiosity going. I said, "What people group is this?" He says, "These are Uber and Grab drivers." I said, why them? He said, "Boss, US self-driving cars are going to be the way of the future, right? With Tesla and other companies, Tesla already entrenched, other companies coming in, right? So what's going to happen to these Uber drivers and Grab drivers, right? They are going to become redundant, right? So I'm investing right now in terms of how can we upskill them to an alternate career option, because before it's too late for them to realize, they would have lost their source of living income, right?" And I thought that was fabulous. And he's really doing some great stuff in terms of upskilling just this target audience, and he's even doing it in Malaysia. think as far as India goes, I think we got some time to go for that, because self-driving may be a distant reality with the reality that we live in, right? Having said that, right, we're talking about evolution of jobs in the current technological landscape. I think there's an interplay that's here. It's a very important interplay between automation, artificial intelligence, and emerging technologies. And we've spoken about it a couple of times already in this brief time. I think tasks which are repetitive in nature, right, are more susceptible to go the automation route. And as a consequence, I think what's going to happen is there could be some apprehension of the word you said, don't mention, job displacement in those kinds of jobs. But having said that, I think this shift is really going to open a Pandora box of opportunities if you are smart enough, if you are proactive enough to identify and recognize them. Okay, with AI coming in, I think roles in AI development, roles in data analysis and machine learning, are the obvious ones. But I'm also talking about roles of a copywriter, for example, right? You can actually turn around more content and create more content by collaborating with Gen AI, for example, right? So just leveraging AI and integrating it as an essential part of your role becomes so important, and also watching out for roles that are specific that this wave is actually opening up. Having said that, there's also the human skill part, right? And I think it's going to be difficult for AI to replace these human skills. And I want to just talk to the 83 people out here who are listening to me, right? Whatever technology does, there are, I would think in my mind, 5 non-AI skills which are super important, right? And if you are looking at a career progression, these 5 non-AI skills you got to embrace. And what are they? I'd start with number 1. A non-AI skill which you got to embrace is curiosity. How can you be curious, right? And constantly curious about the whys of things, right? Second, I would use the word connection. Okay, we live in a pro-social world, right? So having a pro-social skill and making that connection, with others in your organization, outside of your organization, so gives you an opportunity to learn. Connection as a human capability, I think, is super important. Communication. Again, being able to express and articulate your idea. It's not about wanting to sound like you're Shakespeare's grandson or granddaughter. I'm not talking about that as communication. Just the ability to be able to articulate your idea, I think, is super important, right? I would say collaboration, again, super important. We are going to work in structures which are going to grow into more matrix-like organizations. How are you going to collaborate there, right? That's again important. The last I will talk about is change resilience, adaptability, agility, and the resilience to keep learning. So I think these 5 essential non-AI human capabilities which are supremely important. And so again, I would attach these 5 to the adaptive leadership aspect that you spoke about, and I'll dwell on it a little bit. So this continuous technological advancements, which is hitting us at such a rapid pace, makes it clearly impossible for us to be able to put a finger and predict and say, these are the job roles and profiles that are going to be there in the next 2 years. Forget 24 months, even 12 months in this changing landscape it's pretty difficult. So what does that leave us with? I think it leaves us with just the option of being a continual learner. Okay, where you're constantly upskilling, you're constantly learning, right? Now, again, the organization has a role to play, but the onus is on the individual. Okay, the onus is on the individual. The organization has a role to play, but don't depend just on the role of the organization. It's about you willing to go beyond. It's about you willing to be curious. It's about you willing to be able to acquire those skills which have market value, and in a sense, being able to see a little bit ahead, and therefore being able to upskill. Just like the example of my friend who's building content and upskilling Uber drivers and Grab drivers, right? So I think embracing a mindset of lifelong learning and staying agile in acquiring new skill, is really going to give individuals an opportunity to thrive, not just survive through these uncertainties, right? You've got to make this ongoing learning a way of life for you. So I think that's the first part. On the adaptive leadership, again, like Shankar, I was reading a HBR article, and it spoke about just AI and leadership, right? And it had this quadrant, and the 4 boxes, and on one axis you had AI, and the other axis you had the human capability. And the article, the long and short of that article was, when it comes to AI-led leadership, clearly the strategic and critical thinking and decision making, right, that requires the human capability, that from a leadership perspective. Second, I think a lot of research, a lot of interviews, a lot of surveys done with employees saying, hey, where would you want your leader to play a role, right? And where would you want AI to play a role? I think the majority actually said, hey, you know what, I'd like to be, engaging with the human being in the recruitment process, right? Because that gives me a feel of the culture. Yes, I understand efficiency and all of that with systems and all, but can you maximize the learning, the human engagement in the recruitment process? Second, in terms of being able to give from a coaching aspect, right? How do you coach and develop a team? When it comes to team development, right? Again, the verdict was, I'd like my supervisor to be able to do that, right? I'd really like to hear from him or her what's working for me, what's not working for me. Because adding on to what Shankar spoke, and I really kind of was a beautiful learning point for me, was you can make cars, right? But are they meeting the emotional need? And I think even when it comes to human being, in the human being in the workspace, are you meeting the emotional need? And I think that's where the adaptive leadership again is a big factor from that perspective. Are you meeting the emotional need, right? Are you developing, right? Are you being able to see the problems and take the decision? Yeah, dwell on the data, but be able to take the decision holistically. So for me, I think I really think that to create a more resilient and versatile workforce, you need the upskilling. It has to be individual led. You cannot be sitting and worrying about will my role be there or not be there, but rather saying, hey, what can I learn? Take control. And I would think from a leadership perspective, the human side of it, the decision making side of it is super important. And I also think a leader cannot be dogmatic and take extreme positions. An extreme position of this is the way I've always led, so I'll continue to lead, right? Or take a position and say, I'm going to be just completely data driven and I'm going to lead only this way, right? You got to find your sweet spot. And I think adaptive leadership is all about finding that sweet spot between how you can leverage technology and how can you leverage leading from the heart and mind. That would be my answer, Sumant.
Very well shared, Rajiv. And I like the 5 C's that you talked about, the 5 non-AI skills: curiosity, connection, communication, collaboration, and change resilience. And in context of adaptive leadership, I think that finding that sweet spot, as you said, where do you use tech, how do you leverage tech, and also bringing that human aspect, very nicely shared. And good segue to get Shankar back into the discussion, because Shankar, my next question to you was all about leadership. Rajiv was talking about leaders today having to be coaches, right? And not just managers of people, but coaches, right? Employees are looking to leaders as role models. So Shankar, your views on leadership, how, especially from an auto standpoint, Shankar, how is it playing out? We can't hear you. Oh, I think we lost Shankar.
He's back.
Now you can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Yep, go ahead. Yeah,
sure. So I have 3 points building on what Rajiv said and also what Selina observed earlier. So looking at from a leadership perspective, one of the very primary, very basic expectation from a leader is that he should be able to make decisions and then lead the people. He should be able to make the right decisions and then convince people that it's a right decision so that others follow him. This has been the traditional model. But now, today's world, the VUCA world, and you don't have that kind of a data available to you to make decisions and be so sure about it. That has totally changed. So in this kind of a situation, when you don't have the data, how do you make those decisions which are reasonably accurate, or how do you build enough resilience into your decisions so that you'll be able to quickly make necessary course corrections and changes to the decisions that you make? So one area is definitely to look at this whole science of decision making itself, especially when there is limited data. And that's one place where AI can create multiple future scenarios, like a game of chess. If you do this, and if your competitor does that, this is what can happen. Kind of 2-3 steps ahead, what can happen. Kind of visualizing scenarios, and then say under those conditions, what should be your move in order to get the best out of those scenarios. But when we do that, there could be some biases built into that. So we should be able to figure out what are those biases that are influencing those decisions, and figure out ways in which we can remove those biases so that those decisions can be trusted on. So that is a very, very rich space for research, not only in automotive, but a variety of fields. I think this is going to become very important. So we did some work around decision making with our friend Professor Amit from IIT Madras. So we got our platform leaders trained in this kind of decision making science, especially AI enabled and analytics enabled decision making. That is actually one small step that we have taken towards this. Second is, since Rajiv talked about curiosity, I'm sure we are all curious when we are small. We used to ask so many questions, but as we grew old, slowly the number of questions came down significantly. Now we don't ask that many questions. But if we can connect that to what Selena said, to say, can AI be your learning partner? So that when you ask questions, it doesn't give you a direct answer, but gives you some triggers and nudges you towards the right direction and helps you to become genuinely more curious and also kind of a more of a critical thinking rather than just looking for direct answers. Because the kind of world, these wicked problems do not have direct answers. So what works for Selena may not work for Rajiv, may work for me, you never know. So can AI be used as a learning partner who works with you and in the long run actually makes you more curious? These are the two thoughts that I have on hearing what Selena and Rajiv talked about so far.
Right. So Shankar, you talked about data-driven decision making, right? Leaders having to now take decisions based on data.
When there is less data, especially,
Right, and AI being a learning partner, I think very nicely put. What trend that we're going to see perhaps over the next 12 to 18 months, Shankar, and I've been reading about this, is that a lot more AI being fused into our PCs, into our phones. So a lot of the large mobile manufacturers, name it, Samsung, Apple, the next generation of phones, and even the next generation of PCs would have a lot more AI built into it. And I think that is going to be the next evolution, so to speak. Let me now get Vibha back into the discussion. So Vibha, earlier you spoke about the CX and the customer experience and some of the initiatives that are underway. But talking about employee experience, Vibha, it reminds me what a well-known leader, Vineet Nair, former CEO of HCL Technologies, many years back, he actually written a book called Employees First, Customers Second. And his premise was that if you keep your employees happy, they'll take care of your customers. So I just wanted to know from an employee experience standpoint, what are the initiatives underway within your organization to really enhance employee morale and improve their experience, Vibha?
Sure. Thanks for asking that question, Sunil, because for an organization, customers are definitely important for its existence, and so are the employees, right, to create that organization. And while, of course, this is a great book you spoke about, I also follow Richard Branson, who has been leading the Virgin and the Virgin Atlantic, and is a great example again where he has written many books around the same theme. And I truly believe that happy employees make happy customers. And many initiatives that we have taken and used technology again. We've spoken a lot about, training the employees and standardizing the processes where everyone is aligned to the organizational goals and work towards customer experience, enhancing the customer experience, and ensuring they give the best service to retain and engage the customers. But more than that, certain certifications that exists in the industry, which are no cakewalks. There is a proper assessment that is done if one organization wants to apply for, say, a great place to work certification. And we have been bagging this certification not just once, twice, but 3 times in a row, right? So that proves that we are doing certain things which are right from an employee perspective, and how we are onboarding them, recruiting them, training them, and engaging with them, and especially the young generation and the millennials who have a very different sets of values and expectations and ambitions, right? It is about, small things from, say, coffee sessions with the management to how we do certain theme days, and we are spread across the country. We have about 120 offices across the country in all kinds of areas, especially rural areas, right? And there the needs are very, very different of both the employees and the customer. So engaging them with a very robust performance management tool, which is developed in-house, is how we gauge their performance vis-a-vis their goals, as well as continue to improve, upskill, and train them for whatever new things that come up. But while we train them, we also ensure that the performance is rewarding. So having a robust reward and recognition system is equally important to ensure that the entire employee experience is at par with the expectation. So we do an employee engagement survey as well once a year, and take that feedback to create action list to improve those scores in the next survey. So we have a lot of schemes and contests. It's a very target-based model, and incentives is something which really excites anyone, and especially at the lower levels where there is a very incentive-driven culture, target-based culture that we are driving to drive performance as well as achievement of the goals. So like we spoke about the entire customer journey mapping, we also do a complete employee life cycle journey mapping, starting from recruitment till the exit. The average experience in our organization, especially at the mid-level management and above, is about 5 years plus. So that proves that people like to stay here for long, because there is continuous value getting added to their skills in this industry, which has a very high potential and scope in future, especially after COVID. So those are some of the initiatives that we are taking, and we constantly work closely with the management and the human resources team, which obviously includes the learning and development team, to ensure that employees stay happy and we continue to be a great place to work year after year.
Yeah, thank you, Vibha. Now, talking of employees, let me get Selina back into the discussion. And Selina, we have been certified with a number of industry-credited behavioral certifications, including design thinking from MIT Sloan. Very commendable, Selina. So can you share from a human and employee perspective, especially about design thinking? We kind of touched upon it a little bit before in our discussion, but your views on how design thinking can really help, and also some of those key behavioral attributes for people to really acquire to really be successful in their careers, Selina.
Sure, Sunil. Thank you for the question. I think design thinking is, as we are all aware, is a very human-centered approach to problem solving and innovation. We're talking about innovation, and we all appreciate the importance of innovation to stay competitive in the marketplace today. So, and how would design thinking help it, and why is it critical? There was a research by McKinsey, and this research proved that design performers increase the revenue and shareholder returns of their organization twice when compared to those that do not use design thinking. So design thinking, applying design thinking is not just a fad in the industry today. It actually has direct impact on revenue and shareholder returns. And and how? So design thinking is nothing but co-creating. Yes. How would we solve a problem? Tradition. How would one solve? Now, I can say in the IT industry. So client has a problem. We get into a bunch of meetings with the client. We understand their problem. Let's say the client says that I want for we need an app to be built for uh, 737 Boeing or something like that. So we hear what the client says. The tech team comes together and they design an app, and they build the app, and they deploy the app, they test the app, all of that, and the whole thing revolves around the technology. But design thinking is actually where you actually go into that aircraft. You travel with all the stakeholders. You try to understand what is the purpose of the app. How is it going to help this whole experience? Whether is this being done for the crew, for the pilot, for the passengers, or is it for the ground staff or whatsoever, or for the monitoring team, whatever it is. And actually designing is co-creating along with the final users of the product. Yes, and that is why it has a direct bearing on whatever outcomes one is looking for. Now, since it is human centered, there are a bunch of human skills that one would need to uh, uh, apply, because we're so used to automation these days, and we tend to use automation for everything. Everything has to be in in an autopilot mode. Now, going back to design thinking, it has very simple, 5 or 6 steps. So it starts with empathy, which is stakeholder engagement, and therefore the skills associated with empathizing, asking the right questions, having your antennas up. If you're traveling, for example, in the plane, and you're designing an app and you're doing a couple of travels just to see how that app can help, doing interviews with with the passengers if you're building one for them, whatsoever it could be. Or if it is in the medical field, you're building something for the patients, like that GE did one, a scan room for children, because there was this research that children were very nervous about going for a scan, particularly a CT scan, because the machine looks very overwhelming. So then they actually went into that scan room where children would go for their scan and do an entire customer journey map to spot where the issues were. So therefore, this whole issue about this whole need for empathizing with the users. Then also I would say curiosity, which I think Rajiv brought about, having this cultivating this whole mindset of inquiry and curiosity. The second step I would say is defining in design thinking, where you actually define different possibilities. And here it is about co-creating, ability to work with people, because these days we are ready to work with technology, with systems, with processes, anything which is impersonal. But here it is about working with people. So co-creating, collaborating across silos, having those crucial conversations, knowing when to be silent, and when to listen and listen. So if you look at this word silent, it has listen in it, and if you look at the word listen, it has silence. So the ability to listen, just be silent, observe, listen, and not always be in this whole bargain of dishing and producing some products. The third thing is ideation. Here is where we ideate. It's brainstorming with with the users on the solution, and not just empathizing, defining, and then the bunch of product designers go and ideated. Again, in this journey, we have users, we have a bunch of stakeholders, and here is where it is to, a human skill, I would say a behavioral skill, is to be non-judgmental about ideas, because here is where imaginations can go wild. Here is you have the idea, which is the most wild idea, but that possibly could be the solution to the problem. So the ability to not be judgmental, intuitive, lateral thinking, critical thinking, a combination of critical and creative thinking, all of that go a long way. Then we have prototype and test. And here it is about learning from failures. Here it is about being agile, being iterative. You prototype it, and then you run that past the users, the customers, and then it's so iterative, so agile a process that you make changes, and then the product keeps evolving. So I think there are a bunch of behavioral skills which are needed, and if I am not a very people-oriented person. I don't love working with people, having these conversations, understanding, co-creating, intuitiveness, being perceptive, a good blend of critical and creative thinking. All of that, I don't think we will be able to help our organizations compete in terms of bringing in, co-creating with clients and doubling our revenues. So these are the behaviorals which are needed, and therefore in the industry today, never undermine professional development or soft skills as they call it lightly.
Right, thanks, Selina. So you touched upon co-creation quite a few times, and we are seeing organizations increasingly co-create products and services, partnering with their clients. I can give my own example. When I used to work with AT&T, we used to co-create products and services with our clients, and during that process, actually take the help of some of the startups, collaborate with them, and really co-create, build products and services that are very tailor-made to the needs of the customer. So thank you so much, Selina. Let me. I have a few questions. Pallavi, can we take 10 minutes extra if it's okay with the panelists? There are a few questions which I want to pose with you all.
Yes,
is it okay if I
course,
can take 10 minutes?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so Shankar, there's a very interesting question. I wanted to pose it to you, Shankar. And this is related to innovation because you deal a lot on that subject. And the question says that considering the diverse impacts of innovation, many discussions emphasize the positive aspects. Could you share insights on the potential negative impacts of innovation? Very interesting. Negative impacts of innovation.
Sure. So let me think aloud about it, because so innovation is not just coming up with a cool new idea, but it is also about commercializing it and making money out of that idea. So when you come to that second part, that you have an idea and you want to commercialize it, naturally you have to protect it and say that it's my idea and exclude all others from that. That's how the patents and all other IP stuff works. But suppose you got the idea not on your own, but with the help of AI. So somewhere you have used AI assisted ideation process to come up with the idea, then it becomes very fuzzy. Say, are you the person who came up with the idea? Or is it to be shared between you and AI or the creator of that AI? So it becomes a bit messy and it's not very clear right now. A lot of debates are going on around that. So that can, till that gets sorted out, maybe that can slow down the process of commercializing of these ideas which have been generated with the help of AI. So that is the only possible negative thing that I can think about, but I'm hopeful that we should be able to resolve that, because I've been part of some IP groups also who are seriously debating and figuring out ways to design around this. So I'm sure we'll be able to navigate through that. But as of now, that could be one dampening factor. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else wants to take that? Rajiv or Vibha? Negative impacts of innovation. You've seen that?
I'll just add the obvious very briefly. I think issues concerning ethics, issues concerning privacy and misuse. A knife can be used by a surgeon, and a knife can also be used to murder somebody else, right? So
Yeah.
I would add these three in addition to what Shankar has spoken.
Okay, thanks. Okay, there's a question for Vibha. Vibha, this question is from Saubhagya. She's actually left, but anyway, let me take this question. What are some practical ways to bridge the gap between technical expertise and user empathy in the development process? What are the practical ways to bridge the gap between technical expertise and user empathy in the development process? This question's for you, Vibha. You want to take this?
Yeah. No, very interesting question. And the only simple answer for that would be to constantly seek feedback from customers. What is it that they like to see, whether on an app or in a physical environment? It is the constant engagement and seeking feedback to continue to develop the applications from a better user experience perspective and giving what the customers want. So ultimately, knowing your customers' needs and demands constantly, because it's an ever-changing and evolving world, with competition kicking in and with new developments in technology and changing customer behavior and demands, keeping abreast with those changes and developing your processes, standardizing them and improving them accordingly is what will continue to improve the user experience.
Right. Shalina, you want to add to what Vibha said? Let's this question about practical ways to bridge the gap between technical expertise and user empathy in the development process.
I think just getting the techies to be with the users, to spend time with the users. I think that is rather than sitting in their offices, it is about being with the users, being on the field, I think is the simplest way of bridging the gap.
All right. There's one last question. This is to Shankar. So Shankar, this is very specific to auto. The question was about use of AI-assisted real-time speech for automobiles. How is that? Are we seeing such examples today? Are auto companies integrating that in their vehicles today?
Sure. I think there are a lot of voice-enabled features that are coming up. And because it is very useful from a safety perspective, so that the driver is not distracted in terms of turning away and pressing something, he can just speak and keep driving. So those lot of apps of that kind are coming up. And to bring AI into that space definitely makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure in the next 6 to 12 months, a lot of new products are expected to hit the market. You'll see many such features out in those products. So that is a fairly hot area. Things are happening there.
Okay, so we've completely run out of time, but it's been a fascinating discussion. I want to take this opportunity to thank Selina, Vibha, Rajiv, and Shankar. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. We covered quite a lot. We talked about customer experience, employee experience, whole aspect of a job evolution. We talked about leadership, design thinking. I'll not forget the 5 C's, which Rajiv talked about. Non-AI skills. I made a note of it, Rajiv. So a lot that we covered, a lot of learnings for me as well, and I'm sure the participants also enjoyed the discussion. Thank you so much. And I now hand it back to Palvi from TechGeek. Palvi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sunil sir. So I would like to thank all the panelists and all the audience who are there for such a long time, and my special thanks to all the speakers for sparing your valuable time and giving us this insightful information about all the technical things. So thank you so much, and looking forward to collaborate with you all once again. Thank you so much.